This video is on the rib stitch. This is part 3, and I've got 4 different types here. This is a knit 4, purl 4, so they would call it a 4x4. Here's a knit 3, purl 3 here. And then this one is a knit 2, purl 2, and this one is a knit 1, purl 1. And as you can tell, the least amount of stitches between the knits and the purls is a lot more elastic than the knit 4, purl 4. But as I said earlier, I like to show you some of the actual symbols or the abbreviations because we really need to know how to read the patterns that we're doing. The first one is cast on. And the cast on is when we made our original line here when we casted our stitches on. K stands for knit, which is this part here where we knitted every row and made our garter stitch. P, which stands for purl, that was our second one where we knitted one side and then we purled the other side. So we had our stockinette, which is smooth on one side and bumpy on the other. And the last thing was the BO, which is the bind off when we finished our work. Also, you might see CO for cast off. They both are the same. They just, 2 different people like to do it 2 different ways. Here's a couple examples of the ribs. This is a 1x1 rib. I like to use these on my mittens because it's very elastic and it keeps it very snug around your wrist. You can also use it on hats. Sometimes the 2x2 is used on hats too, but see, this is also very elastic. Here's the 2x2 hat. Kind of dirty, but you can see it's got 2 knits and 2 purls all the way across, and it's very elastic. Usually when it gets in the 3s and the 4s, it's more used in garments than it is for like rib stitch. Like on the bottom of this one, I have the knit 2, purl 2. But when you get up into this area, it's knit 6, purl 2. When you turn the work inside out, when you're going back the other direction, it's knit 2, purl 6. Because your direction will say knit the knits and purl the purls. So on this side, you'll see the smooth knit stitches, and here you'll see the back bumps, which will be your purl stitches. When you turn your work around, then the smooth would be the 6, and the purl would be the bumpy, which is only 2. We'll kind of go over that with what we're doing. So let's start by casting on. We do just like we did before. Need to pull it tight. Okay. The ball yarn to your left and the tail yarn to your right. Yarn over clockwise and go up your thumb. Don't want to spend too much time on this. I try to keep my videos at 15 minutes, and we've already gone over this twice. We'll go over it again slowly, but not too slow. Clockwise around your thumb, needle up your thumb, counterclockwise over the needle, and hold it down along the edge of the needle. We'll do 12 of these. So we got 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There we go. Now we're ready to start doing our rib stitch. So we'll start with a knit 2, purl 2. So we can kind of show you what that looks like on this paper here. See it? Sometimes they'll say 2x2 rib, or they'll show it this way, and whatever's in the parentheses is what you would repeat. So you repeat knit 2, purl 2, and you repeat it to the end. Or they'll say knit 2, purl 2 twice, so you only do it 2 times. Or they say repeat 3 times. In that case, you do knit 2, purl 2, knit 2, purl 2, knit 2, purl 2, and then go on to whatever the rest of the pattern calls for. So let's go ahead and do our knit 2, purl 2. Now we've already went through our knits and our purls, so I don't have to go as slow. It's the same as we were doing in the first 2 parts. Bring the yarn between the 2 needles now because we're going to purl the next 2. So you have to have the yarn in the front. But you still do the actual purl stitch. Now when you get your 2 purls, you take it to the back because your yarn is on the back when you do your knit. So you knit 1, knit 2, bring the yarn between the needles, knit 1, knit 2, bring the yarn between the needles, knit 1, knit 2, Bring the yarn between the needles, purl 1 and purl 2. And when you look at this, you can notice that you see 2 that are smooth, 2 that are bumpy, 2 smooth, 2 bumpy, 2 smooth, 2 bumpy. So these are knit 2, purl 2, knit 2, purl 2, knit 2, purl 2. When I turn it over, you can see it again. Knit 2, purl 2, knit 2, purl 2. So these 2 we're going to knit, the 2 bumps we're going to purl, then the 2 smooth ones we're going to knit. So let's go through it again. Knit 2. Now the next one's got a bump, so that one we're going to have to purl. So bring the yarn between the needles and purl 2. Now the next 2 don't have bumps, so that's a knit. So we need to bring the yarn between the needles to the back to knit 2. Bring it to the front, purl 2. Bring it to the back, knit 2, and we'll finish off with 2 purls. Now in the next row, I'm going to make one of the most classic mistakes that people make when they do these rib stitches. Is you would forget to bring the yarn between the needles and you just kind of flip it over the top, not realizing what you've done. I will show you how the 2 ways to fix that. The right way and the fudgy way. So we're going to start with knit 2, purl 2. We're going to go back to knit 2. Now when I go to do the purl, I'm going to not do this. I'm going to forget to do that. So I'll put my needle in and bring the yarn over. And as you see, it didn't lay right. And when you actually do your stitch, you're going to notice this funny bumpy ridge right here. And that's because we didn't bring the yarn through between the needles. We took it over top the needle. If you spot it right away, you can fix it. You put your needle back in the stitch that just came off your left needle, slide it on your left needle, and then you can pull the yarn away. We'll do the same thing here. There's the stitch that we just took off the needle, put it back in the needle, and pull it off, and now the yarn is free again. So now we can bring it between the stitches like we're supposed to. And then we're going to knit 2. Now the next time I do it, I'm going to forget and go all the way to the end before I realize I've made the mistake. Okay, so here we're going to try it again. And as you can see, our knit 2, purl 2 design is starting to form. So we're going to knit 2. I'll bring the yarn between the needles, purl 2, knit 2. Oh, this is the mistake we're going to do. We're going to do the purl and leave the yarn over the needle accidentally instead of putting it where we're supposed to put it by physically moving it between the needles. Now we're going to go to the end. Say you're making a shawl and you've got over 250 stitches and you accidentally did this mistake, and you can see it right there halfway through your shawl, and you don't want to take your shawl out apart. You can make this little fudge effect. It doesn't really show a whole lot, and like I tell a lot of the ladies at my store, the knitting police will not come arrest you if you did the little fudge. Okay, I'm just about, okay, and where my mistake is right here. You can go like this and pull it over, because see, it's like a yarn over you don't need. You just slip it back over and then knit. Now the stitch will be a little loose, but over a couple of rolls it'll just kind of fudge in. And there you go. See, you don't even see it. You just unloop it. As you see, it just kind of fell right into place. Now to see the way some of the others are worded, like this is your knit 1, purl 1. That's like the little wrist warmers I have here. It's 1 knit, 1 purl, 1 knit, 1 purl, and it's represented by 1 rib, or knit 1, purl 1, and you repeat. And then when you bind off in what's called a rib stitch. You don't bind off straight across as if you're knitting. Now here's a unique one. Say you would cast on 16 stitches and you're doing a 3x3 rib, or you do 3x3 and you do it 4 times. 6 times 4 would be 24, and you'd have 4 more. This is on 28 stitches, and you'd have 4 left instead of 3. So you'd knit 3, purl 3, repeat to the last 4 stitches, knit the last 4. When you turn your work around, you're going to have an odd 4 stitches, because normally this is an even set. You would purl 4, and then in parentheses it'll say knit 3, purl 3, and that's what you would repeat to the end. You can see that here, because this is a knit 3, purl 3. So there's 3, purl 3, knit 3, purl 3, and as you can see, I have 4 left. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 knits. If I turn the work over, well, I don't have knits, I have purls. So that'd be right here. That would be the purl 4, and then the knit 3, purl 3, knit 3, purl 3. I just wanted to give you an idea of some of the different things you'll encounter when you're doing this. Now this is something interesting. Say you're having to use 2 different colors, not necessarily 2 different ribs, but you never know what the pattern's going to call for. And you start doing your standard knit purl on top. All of a sudden you're going to get this double roll of colors here that doesn't look as nice. It's better if it has this nice smooth look. And I can show you a trick on how to get that nice smooth look. The first roll you would do, instead of actually doing a rib stitch, is knit every single stitch across. If you knit every single stitch, all of the bumps would be on the back side, instead of some on the front and some on the back. A good thing to show is this. See how here you got the little purple bumps inside the orange? If I had done this to that hat before I actually started doing the rib stitch, it would not have shown. So as you see, I'm doing every one of these stitches as a knit, and when I do my patterns and I'm mixing up stitches and colors, I will do this where I say knit across the next row, and this is the reason why. Once you knit across this first row, all of your bumps are on the back side, so you're starting fresh. So if you turn your work over, well, you can tell right here, if you look at your previous row, you have knits and you have purls. So you would knit the first 3, or whatever the pattern says, knit 2, knit 3, knit 5. I'll knit 4. And then you purl 4, so bring the yarn in between. Now we're going to purl 4. Okay. I just want to give you just one roll of this, because I want to show you about the bind off. Okay, so now I'm at the end. When I turn my work over, there's your purls, and there's your knits, there's your purls, and there's your knits, and you don't have that broken line on the front side of your work. As you can see here, each one is very smooth and even. Now I like to show you how to bind off in rib. If you just bind off and straighten it like we showed you at the last part 2, this is what it would look like, and it's really not that stretchy, and it doesn't have a really nice look. We want to bind off in rib. Okay, so we would knit the knit stitches. So there's 2 knits. And we do our normal bind off. Now bring the yarn in between. Purl 1. Bring it to the back so it's easier to grab. Bring it back to the front because the next stitch is a purl. Put it to the back because it's easier to hold. And bind off these 2. Bring it to the front. Oh no, it's back because that's a knit. So we knit this one. Knit the next one. Now we're going to purl the next 2. I'm almost out of time. I'll quickly get these last 2 done. Okay, well, I'll just stop now. And you can see it sets up on top, and it's a lot more stretchy, and it has a nicer look than this flat one here.